He thought I'd be too heartbroken to function after I found out about his mistress. Instead, I did the one thing he never expected. I had a secret of my own. I waited until he was begging on his knees, swearing he'd do anything to earn me back. Then I smiled sweetly and said, "Oh, don't worry. I already got my payback." His brows furrowed. "What do you mean?" he whispered. I leaned in and whispered, "Let's just say I know why your best friend has always been so protective of me." His hands trembled, and that's when he knew he had lost everything. I never imagined I'd be sharing my story here, but life has a way of throwing unexpected punches. I'm Sarah, a 35-year-old woman from Chicago, and this is the account of how I discovered my husband's betrayal and the path I took in response. Mike and I met during our junior year at the University of Chicago. Both literature majors, we bonded over late-night study sessions, debating the merits of Hemingway versus Fitzgerald. Our connection was instant, and by the time we graduated, we were inseparable. We married at 25, full of dreams and promises, settling into a charming brownstone in Lincoln Park. For the past decade, Mike worked as an editor at a reputable publishing house downtown, while I taught English at a local high school. Our lives were intertwined with routines and shared passions. We hosted book clubs, attended literary festivals, and spent lazy Sundays reading in bed. I believed we had built a solid foundation of trust and mutual respect. However, about 6 months ago, I noticed subtle changes in Mike's behavior. He began working late more frequently, citing tight deadlines and demanding authors. Our evening rituals, cooking together, discussing our days, became sporadic. He seemed distant, often lost in thought, and his once affectionate gestures grew infrequent. One evening, after a particularly long day at school, I decided to surprise Mike at his office with his favorite takeout. Balancing the bags, I navigated the familiar hallways of his publishing house, exchanging pleasantries with colleagues I had come to know over the years. As I approached his office, I heard laughter, a woman's laughter, emanating from within. My heart sank, but I brushed off the unease, convincing myself it was just a friendly interaction. I knocked and entered to find Mike seated across from a woman I'd met briefly at office parties, Laura, a junior editor. They seemed startled by my arrival, exchanging quick glances before Mike stood to greet me. I dismissed the tension as my imagination running wild and joined them for a brief chat before heading home together. The incident lingered in my mind, but I chose to trust Mike, attributing my feelings to stress and overthinking. However, the late nights continued, and his explanations grew vaguer. Our intimacy dwindled, replaced by a chasm of silence and unspoken words. One night, unable to sleep, I reached for Mike's phone charging on his nightstand. We had always been open with our devices, sharing passwords without hesitation. As I unlocked it, a series of messages caught my eye, conversations with Laura that were far from professional. They spoke of stolen moments, shared secrets, and plans that had no place in a platonic relationship. A particular message stood out: "Can't wait to see you again. Last night was amazing." Heart, my hands trembled, tears blurring my vision. The weight of betrayal pressed down on me, suffocating and relentless. I felt a storm of emotions, anger, sadness, confusion, but amidst the turmoil, a resolve began to form. I didn't confront Mike immediately. Instead, I delved deeper, gathering evidence and piecing together the extent of his infidelity. I discovered receipts for dinners at intimate restaurants, hotel bookings, and a hidden email account used exclusively for their correspondence. Determined to understand the full scope, I reached out to Laura's husband, Daniel. We had exchanged pleasantries at company events, but were little more than acquaintances. When I informed him of our spouse's affair, there was a long silence before he spoke, his voice heavy with disbelief and pain. "Thank you for telling me," he finally said. I had no idea. We decided to meet at a quiet cafe in Wicker Park to share information and support each other. Over steaming cups of coffee, we exchanged stories, uncovering a web of deceit that spanned months. Daniel revealed that Laura had also been distant, often attending workshops and conferences that now, in hindsight, seemed suspicious. As we delved deeper into our spouse's betrayal, an unexpected bond formed between Daniel and me. We became each other's confidants, sharing late-night phone calls and messages, offering solace during sleepless nights. Our shared pain created an understanding that was both comforting and unsettling. Meanwhile, at home, I maintained a facade of normalcy. I continued my routines, all the while documenting Mike's movements and collecting evidence. I sought legal counsel to understand my options, ensuring that when the time came, I would be prepared. One evening, Mike came home earlier than usual, a bouquet of my favorite lilies in hand. He apologized for his recent absence, blaming work stress and promising to make amends. I accepted the flowers with a smile, all the while feeling a chasm widen between us. As weeks passed, Mike's behavior grew erratic. He oscillated between affectionate gestures and distant aloofness. I noticed him watching me, perhaps sensing my growing detachment. The tension in our home became palpable, an unspoken acknowledgement of the crumbling facade of our marriage. During this tumultuous period, Daniel and I continued to lean on each other. Our conversations shifted from shared pain to personal stories, dreams, and aspirations. An undeniable connection blossomed, one that blurred the lines between friendship and something more. One night, after a particularly emotional call with Daniel, I found myself questioning my own morals. Was I any better than Mike and Laura? The realization was sobering. I decided to take a step back, focusing on my own healing and seeking therapy to navigate the complex emotions entwining my heart. As I worked through my feelings, I began to reclaim parts of myself that had been overshadowed by my marriage. I revisited old hobbies, reconnected with friends, and prioritized self-care. The process was painful but necessary, a journey towards rediscovering my identity beyond being Mike's wife. Mike, perhaps sensing the shift, grew more desperate in his attempts to salvage our marriage. He planned weekend getaways, cooked elaborate dinners, and showered me with gifts. But his efforts felt hollow, unable to bridge the chasm his betrayal had created. One evening, as we sat across from each other at the dinner table, the weight of unspoken words became unbearable. I set down my fork and met his gaze. "Mike, I know about Laura," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil within. His face drained of color, eyes widening in shock. "Sarah," I raised a hand, silencing him. "Please, don't insult me with excuses. I've known for months." Tears welled in his eyes as he reached across the table, grasping my hands. "I'm so sorry. I was a fool. It meant nothing. Please, give me a chance to make it right." I withdrew my hands, the touch of his skin now foreign and unwelcome. "You shattered my trust, Mike. I don't know if it's something we can rebuild." He fell to his knees beside me, sobbing. "I'll do anything, Sarah. Therapy, counseling, whatever it takes. I can't lose you." I looked down at him, the man I had loved for over a decade, now a stranger begging for redemption. A part of me yearned to forgive, to mend the broken pieces, but another part recognized the irreparable damage done. Taking a deep breath, I spoke the words that had been weighing on my heart. "Mike, I've found support in someone who understands this pain." "Daniel." His name left my lips, and I saw the color drain completely from Mike's face. "Daniel?" he repeated, voice barely above a whisper. "You've been talking to him?" I nodded, keeping my eyes locked on his. "Yes." I told him everything. He deserved to know, just like I did. Mike stood up slowly, pushing his chair back like it was suddenly too close. He ran both hands through his hair and began pacing the kitchen. "So what, you two, what? What does that mean?" "It means we've been helping each other through this," I said plainly. "That's all you need to know for now." He stopped in his tracks and turned to face me. "Are you sleeping with him?" I didn't answer. The silence spoke louder than anything I could have said. Mike's jaw clenched. His eyes narrowed. "You're unbelievable." I scoffed. "I'm unbelievable? After everything you did?" He opened his mouth like he wanted to scream, but all that came out was a dry, broken sound. He turned away again, gripping the edge of the counter. For a long moment, he didn't say anything. I could see his back rise and fall with every heavy breath he took. Finally, without turning around, he muttered, "You've ruined everything." I felt something inside me snap. No, Mike. You did. When you decided I wasn't enough. When you crawled into bed with someone else behind my back and still kissed me goodbye every morning like you weren't lying through your teeth. He spun around. I made a mistake, Sarah. You made a choice, I shot back. Over and over. For months. Don't you dare downplay it now. His face twisted. There was rage behind his eyes, but also something else, shame. Maybe even fear. Did Daniel touch you? He asked suddenly. I need to know. I leaned in close, kept my voice low and cold. Let's just say I know why your best friend has always been so protective of me. His hands actually started to shake. I saw it. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Then he stumbled backward like I'd hit him. Are you serious? He asked, blinking fast. I just looked at him. You and Daniel? He's my best friend. You're lying. Am I? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Now he was the one crying. And that's when it hit him. Not just that he cheated. Not just that I knew. But that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the one left alone anymore. He dropped into the kitchen chair, staring at the floor. I need to talk to him. I laughed. Actually laughed. Oh, please do. I'd love to hear that conversation. He looked up, and for the first time, he didn't look angry. He looked terrified. You're serious? You really went there? I didn't answer. Underscore 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 underscore. The next day, I was back at school, trying to keep my head straight, teaching kids about metaphors and similes while my personal life was spinning off the rails was getting harder by the day. I was mid-lecture when my phone buzzed. It was Lisa, my best friend since high school, texting me, "Call me as soon as you can. Something's up with Mike." I called her during lunch. She sounded out of breath. "Sarah, I saw Mike today," she said. "At a bar. He looked awful. Like he hadn't slept. And he was with Laura." I blinked. Wait. What? Yeah. With her. Not yelling. Not crying. Just sitting across from each other, like they were planning something. My stomach turned. Are you sure? I'd know that smug face anywhere. After school, I drove around aimlessly for a while before heading home. When I got there, Mike's car wasn't in the driveway, but I noticed the guest room door was open. I walked in and found it. His old laptop, powered on, email app wide open. I never went through his personal stuff. Not unless I had a reason. This time I did. One of the open emails was from Laura. And it wasn't just about him and her. It was worse. There were messages between them, plotting how to control the narrative of the affair if it came out. How to spin things so they didn't look like the villains. They were worried about their jobs, about appearances. There were lines like, "If she talks to HR, we say it was just a short fling and she's exaggerating. If Daniel gets involved, we flip it and say Sarah manipulated him." I was shaking. They weren't just cheating. They were preparing to discredit me. That's when I noticed another email. One not to Laura, but to someone named Angela Simmons. The subject line made my blood run cold. Legal consultation. Mike was preparing for a divorce battle. He hadn't said anything. Hadn't filed. But he was laying the groundwork. He wanted to protect himself, maybe even go after me if I made his life too hard. I stared at the screen, mind racing. He was going to try to ruin me if it came to that. And he was working with her. I took pictures of every email. Every message. I sent them to a private cloud folder and made sure they were backed up 6 ways from Sunday. I wasn't about to be blindsided. The next time I saw Daniel, I told him everything. He was furious. Not just because of Laura, but because Mike had used his name in one of the messages, saying he could be manipulated if needed. Daniel just shook his head, jaw tight. He thinks this is a game. He thinks he can outmaneuver both of us. I nodded. We'll see about that. Daniel paused, then looked at me. You know he's going to try and twist this. Make it sound like you were the villain. I know, I said. Let him try. But deep down, I felt something shift. This wasn't just about a broken marriage anymore. Mike was trying to make me the enemy. And now it was war. Things got worse before they got better. 3 days after I found those emails, I came home to find my front door slightly open. It was barely noticeable, just off the latch, but enough to make my stomach clench. I stepped inside slowly, heart pounding. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I called out Mike's name, just in case, but nothing. Then I noticed the picture frames in the hallway were crooked. One was shattered on the floor. I grabbed my phone and backed out of the house. Called 911. The police came, cleared the place, said it looked like a break-in, but strangely, nothing was stolen. My jewelry was untouched. Electronics all there. Even my laptop was still sitting on the kitchen counter. Only a few drawers had been opened, and oddly, some papers from my desk were missing. The officer asked me if anyone would want to scare me or send a message. I didn't say anything out loud, but I knew who it was. Mike showed up an hour later like he had a right to be concerned. Did you do this? I asked him straight up, no sugarcoating. His eyes went wide. What? Of course not. Why would I break into my own house? I don't know. Maybe because you're losing control, I snapped. He got defensive. You really think I'd stoop that low? I didn't answer. But I was starting to wonder just how far he would go to protect his image. Later that night, I got a call from Daniel. He sounded shaken. Sarah, something's off. I just got a visit from Laura. She showed up at my place unannounced. Said she wanted to clear the air. What did she say? She told me you were mentally unstable. That you've been making things up to get back at Mike. She even brought fake text messages. Messages she claimed you sent me, begging for attention. I froze. You're kidding. No. And they were bad. Like, psycho ex-girlfriend level fake. But I know your writing style. I know those weren't you. She's setting you up, Sarah. Laura was trying to plant a false narrative. They weren't just covering their tracks anymore. They were rewriting the whole damn book. Daniel and I agreed to start recording every conversation, saving every voicemail, screenshotting everything. We didn't know what they'd try next, but it was clear they were playing dirty. That weekend, I was sitting in my car outside the school where I worked, just trying to get a moment to think. That's when I saw her. Laura. She was parked across the street in a black Mazda, sunglasses on, pretending to scroll through her phone. But every couple of minutes, she'd look up, right at the school entrance. Was she watching me? Or someone else? I took a picture of her, time-stamped it, then drove around the block and parked again further down. She stayed for another 15 minutes and then drove off. I sent the photo to Daniel. He called me right away. This is next level. She's stalking you. I don't think it's just me, I said quietly. I think she's gathering ammo. That night, Daniel sent me a voice recording. Listen to this. She didn't know I had my phone in my pocket. I pressed play. Laura's voice, cold and calculated. If Sarah keeps pushing this, I'll take it to court. Say she harassed me. Say she tried to ruin my career out of jealousy. You know how easily people believe the crazy wife story, right? I sat there, numb. They were building a trap. And they thought I'd walk into it. But what they didn't know, I wasn't alone anymore. Earlier that week, I had quietly hired a private investigator, a retired Chicago cop who'd helped a friend of mine during her custody case. He was already looking into Laura's past. And what he found? Laura wasn't just cheating with Mike. There were at least 2 other coworkers she had been involved with before. One of them had been quietly transferred out of state after things got messy. The other had filed a harassment complaint that mysteriously disappeared. My PI said Laura had a pattern: seduce, entangle, and when it started falling apart, blame the other person. Mike was just the latest. I kept everything. The email threads. The recorded calls. Her voice. Her car outside the school. The messages to Daniel. Even a screenshot from a burner account she used to send me a DM on Instagram, calling me a pathetic housewife clinging to a failed marriage. She had no idea I was building a case. Not just for divorce, but for something bigger. I wasn't the only one Laura had hurt. I was just the first one ready to take it public. And Mike? He was in too deep. The lies he told were now part of her web. If he tried to back out now, she'd take him down too. The confrontation came 2 weeks later, on a Friday night of all things, at Mike's company gala. An annual event. The kind of night where everyone wore suits and cocktail dresses and pretended they didn't hate their coworkers. I wasn't supposed to be there. Mike didn't even invite me. But I showed up anyway. I walked in wearing a deep red dress, something that made me feel powerful, not invisible, and a flash drive in my purse. I had debated with myself for days. Should I go? Should I really do this? The thing that pushed me over the edge was a voicemail from Laura. Not to me. To Daniel. She'd slipped up and accidentally called him while drunk. Her words slurred but clear enough. She thinks she's better than me. She's not. Mike was already bored. I just gave him what he wanted. She laughed at the end. That laugh did something to me. Lit a fire. So, I walked into the gala like I was there for champagne and small talk. I spotted Mike immediately. His smile faltered the moment he saw me. Laura was at his side, clinging to his arm like a dog with a bone. "Sarah," he said, surprised and clearly uneasy. "What are you?" I cut him off. "Don't worry, I won't be long." I turned to the man behind the sound booth, the event DJ, and gave him the USB stick. Track 5. Just hit play when I nod. He looked confused, but nodded. I stepped up to the mic on the main stage, interrupting some senior VP's speech about publishing trends or whatever it was. People looked up, murmured. A few staff members recognized me. Mike looked like he was going to be sick. Laura turned pale. I spoke clearly into the mic. "Sorry to interrupt. I won't take much of your time. My name is Sarah. I'm Mike's wife. Was, I should say. You could hear a pin drop. I'm here because I think it's time for some truth. Mike and Laura have been having an affair for months. They've lied, schemed, and tried to discredit me. But I have evidence." I nodded to the DJ. He hit play. The speakers crackled. Then, Laura's voice. Slurred and mean. "She thinks she's better than me. She's not." Mike was already bored. I just gave him what he wanted. Her drunk laugh echoed through the room. Gasps. A few people turned to look at Laura. Others at Mike. Then the recording of her threatening Daniel. "If she pushes it, I'll say she harassed me." Everyone loves the crazy ex-wife story. Mike stepped forward, face flushed. "Sarah, stop." But I didn't. I turned the mic off and handed the DJ a $100 bill. "Thanks." Then I walked out. I didn't look back. The fallout was immediate. Laura was fired within days. Apparently this wasn't her first HR problem. My PI's info helped make it stick. Mike tried to deny everything at first, but there were too many witnesses. Too many files. Too many receipts. I filed for divorce that Monday. He tried to come to the house. Left flowers on the porch. Called 100 times. Sent emails that ranged from begging to raging to guilt-tripping. Daniel blocked both of them. He and I talked a lot after that night. But we also agreed to pause things between us. Too many emotions. Too much damage. We needed space to figure out what we actually wanted, apart from the wreckage. Lisa, my best friend, came over with wine and no judgment. "Honestly, you look like a damn queen on that stage," she told me. I laughed. For the first time in months, it felt real. The hardest part wasn't the divorce. It wasn't even the cheating. It was realizing that the life I thought I had never really existed the way I believed it did. That the man I defended, supported, trusted, he saw me as optional. That hurt in ways I didn't have words for. There were nights I sat in bed and replayed the last 10 years in my head, searching for signs. Wondering if I'd missed something. If it was me. But it wasn't. He broke the marriage. He set fire to it. And Laura handed him the match. What I've learned. Betrayal doesn't destroy you. Not if you don't let it. It cuts deep, yeah. It changes you. But it also reveals who's really on your side, and more importantly, you are when everything else is stripped away. Right now, I'm rebuilding. Slowly, carefully. I've started hiking again. I read for myself, not just to prep lesson plans. I laugh more, sleep better, and I trust my gut now. Because when it told me something was wrong, it was right. Where I go from here? I'm not sure yet. But I'm free. And that's a damn good place to start.